The rain fell hard against the shimmering streets of Manhattan, painting the sidewalks in silver streaks of light. Out of a sleek black car stepped Amara Lewis, a striking woman in her early 30s. Dressed in a tailored coat, she carried herself with the quiet grace of someone who had walked through storms far heavier than rain. She approached the glowing entrance of one of the city's most prestigious hotels, her heels clicking steadily against the marble floor as she entered. Guests lounged in the lobby, sipping champagne and laughing softly, their voices blending with the gentle hum of a piano. At the reception desk, Amara offered a warm smile. "Good evening. I'd like a suite for the weekend, please." Her tone was polite, confident, the way one might expect from a woman used to boardrooms and negotiations. The receptionist glanced at her, their expression hardening almost instantly. The smile they wore for the couple ahead of her had vanished. With a quick look to a colleague, the receptionist leaned slightly forward and muttered under their breath, "We don't have availability for people like her." Amara's gaze shifted subtly. On the computer screen before her, she saw multiple suites listed as available. She said nothing, but the sting in her chest was sharp, undeniable. The receptionist cleared their throat, repeating louder this time, "I'm sorry, ma'am. We're fully booked." For a moment, silence hung heavy. Amara inhaled slowly, refusing to let her composure crack. She simply nodded, turned, and walked back toward the glowing glass doors. To everyone else in the lobby, she looked calm, untouched. But only she knew how deeply familiar this rejection felt, how it whispered of battles she thought the world had outgrown. The rain had softened into a mist by the time Amara Lewis stepped back out onto the sidewalk. Neon lights flickered against puddles at her feet, the city alive yet indifferent. For a moment, she stood still, the weight of rejection pressing against her chest. She could have turned back, demanded respect, called for the manager, reminded them that money spoke louder than prejudice. But Amara knew better. She had learned long ago that dignity wasn't proven in arguments, it was carried in silence. As she walked down the block, her eyes caught a figure huddled beneath the hotel's awning. A young mother, soaked to the skin, sat with her arms wrapped tightly around a little boy no older than 6. Their clothes clung to their bodies, their breaths trembling in the cold night air. The boy coughed, pressing closer to his mother's chest for warmth. Amara slowed. The sting of rejection still lingered, but compassion rose stronger. She crouched down, her expensive heels clicking softly on the wet concrete. "Rough night?" she asked gently. The mother nodded, her eyes filled with weariness and shame. Without hesitation, Amara slipped the umbrella from her bag, a sleek black one, sturdy and new, and placed it in the woman's hands. "This will help keep him dry," she said softly. The mother's lips trembled as she whispered a thank you, pulling her child close beneath the umbrella's shelter. Amara smiled, brushing a damp curl from her own face. She had no room, no warm lobby, no welcome here. But she could still give warmth to someone else. As she walked into the rainy night, her shoulders straightened. The hotel had stripped her of courtesy, but not of grace. Kindness, she reminded herself, was a wealth no one could deny her. Morning broke over Manhattan with the sun glinting off glass towers, the city already buzzing with its relentless rhythm. Inside the hotel, however, the air was far less carefree. The front desk phones rang non-stop, each call bringing a fresh wave of panic to the staff. "Are you serious?" You turned her away, a voice barked from the other end of the line. It was a travel journalist, furious. Another call came in from a well-known television network. Then another, from a charity organization that had worked with her for years. The receptionist who had rejected Amara felt her stomach twist as the truth unraveled. The woman they had dismissed so casually, so cruelly, wasn't just any guest. She was Amara Lewis, the billionaire philanthropist whose story had been splashed across business magazines and news outlets worldwide. Born in a small town in Georgia, Amara had built her empire from scratch. First through tech startups, then through real estate, and finally, through investments that had made her one of the youngest black female billionaires in America. But her wealth wasn't what made her admired. It was her heart. She had donated millions to schools in underserved communities, funded hospitals across Africa, and personally paid tuition for hundreds of first-generation college students. Her face was on the cover of Forbes, her name spoken with reverence in boardrooms and classrooms alike. Yet, here, in this luxury hotel, she had been seen as less than. The receptionist's hands trembled as they whispered to the manager, we turned away Amara Lewis. The manager froze, realization crashing down like a tidal wave. The staff exchanged horrified looks. In one careless moment, they had not only insulted a billionaire, they had insulted the very essence of humanity she represented. The next morning, the hotel's grand lobby buzzed with nervous energy. Staff hurried about, straightening furniture and polishing counters that already gleamed. Word had spread, Amara Lewis was coming back. Every eye darted toward the glass doors when they swung open. Amara entered, not in anger, not with lawyers or an entourage, but with the same quiet poise as before. She wore a simple, elegant dress and carried herself with calm authority. Behind her trailed a small team, event planners carrying folders and tablets. "Good morning," Amara said gently, her voice steady. The staff stiffened, bracing for confrontation. But instead, she continued, "I've booked the entire ballroom for a charity gala tonight. I trust everything will be ready." The manager nearly stumbled over his words. "Why yes, of course, Ms. Lewis. Absolutely. Anything you need." The same receptionist who had dismissed her the night before stood frozen, shame coloring their face. Amara's eyes met theirs for a brief moment. There was no trace of spite, only a kind of measured grace that felt heavier than anger. That evening, the hotel transformed into a beacon of light. Crystal chandeliers glittered above tables draped in silk. Guests in gowns and tuxedos streamed through the doors, leaders, activists, and community heroes, all gathered under Amara's invitation. Then, in a moment that silenced the entire room, Amara walked to the entrance and ushered in two unexpected guests, the homeless mother and her little boy she had met under the awning. Clad now in fresh clothes, the boy clung shyly to his mother's hand as Amara led them to the front table, right beside her own seat. Gasps rippled through the crowd, followed by a swell of applause. Amara hadn't just returned. She had elevated the very people the world often overlooked. The gala sparkled with laughter, music, and the clinking of glasses, but as Amara Lewis stepped onto the stage, the room hushed. All eyes turned to her, the woman once rejected at this very hotel, now commanding the spotlight with quiet strength. She smiled, glancing toward the homeless mother and child seated proudly at the front table. The little boy waved shyly, and Amara's expression softened before she began. "Last night," she said, her voice steady but warm, "I was told there was no room here for me. Not because the hotel was full, but because of something far older, far heavier than any reservation system." A murmur swept through the crowd. "But as I stepped outside, I realized, true wealth isn't in marble lobbies or sparkling chandeliers. It's in how we treat one another when no one is watching." She paused, letting her words settle over the room. Kindness should never depend on status, wealth, or skin color. It is the one luxury that costs nothing but has the power to change everything. Applause began softly, then swelled into thunder. Even the staff, standing along the walls, clapped with tear-streaked faces. The receptionist who had once dismissed her lowered their head, humbled. Amara raised a hand toward the mother and child. "Tonight, this hotel is not just a place of luxury, it is a place of hope. And every dollar raised here will go toward giving families like theirs a second chance." The crowd rose to its feet, cheering, united in a moment that transcended wealth and status. As the music resumed and the night blossomed into celebration, one truth lingered in every heart: compassion has the power to transform not only lives, but entire worlds.